Sanjay Chodan Zokin Chonam La Janjoy Barandoy Dagni Kyapsui Chi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonan Ki Drolai Penche Sange Drupai Shu.
The excellent Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I go for refuge until the attainment of enlightenment. Through the merit of my generosity and so forth, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of benefiting beings.
So, in order to do the analytical meditation, we were discussing about the different mental states. Traditionally, we talked about the 51 mental states, and we categorized them in different groups, like positive, negative, and yeah. Because in order to practice this general, but especially when we do a self-introspection or self-observing meditation, one way to do is you just use your thought regardless of differentiating it. This would be more like shamatha. But when you do the analytical meditation, that is more related to the vipassana, which means you have to discriminate, you have to identify. And normally, when we go through certain kind of days, mindset, lack of our mindfulness and insight, it seems like, oh, there's some sort of lump mind that is happening here. Then we say, oh, I'm not feeling good today, or I'm angry, or I'm very happy today, right? So you describe our mental state from that point of view, which is not very helpful for us to get rid of it, because we see this very vague mind, not clearly. It's step-by-step process as well as the components. So it's hard to undo, because you know something is happening and you just, okay, because of such and such I get disappointed, and that's it, right? So it feels like the only get rid out of anger is to get rid out of all the enemies, right? That's the only how you do. But problem is that enemy, it does not, because what does enemy means is that how your mind react, and then you can make anything enemy. It doesn't have to be a certain person or color or shape. So maybe after a few time, I might get irritated by the flower or bird sound or something like that. So it doesn't really help by recognizing from the saying, okay, I go there, I will be peace, or because I will now I'm free from my enemy, so I won't get anger or attachment, because these are not object related emotions. Yes, it is triggered by object, but you can create a new enemy, you can create a new object of attachment, so that's a problem. Even you can just be in the cab, and be very agitated and disturbed by attachment. So this analyzing and penetrating thoughts into the different layers is very helpful to know and see our mindset as in the more clear way, instead of just one big lump, and then blame it on one very abstract reason or because of this and that. And you get some kind of confidence of, okay, so if this is this, maybe I can change it. I can work with it. So when you're not clear, then it seems almost like impossible, because it's going to be there anyway. You don't know why, but it's happening in your life. Kind of like that. The important thing is that it doesn't necessarily have to that you have to understand all these 51 mental states and recognize it, right? The point is that once you know some idea, you can figure out your, your algorithm of your mind. It's not that you have to see, okay, so now 49, now it's 51. It's not like that, but you will see your pattern, and then you can focus on that. Then it becomes very easy. Maybe it's just 5 of them, maybe it's just 2 of them among the 51, and you will get the, once you know your pattern, it's quite easy to work with it, because you found the point. So that is the purpose of studying these mental states. And also you become quite a patient, because you look at your situations from the dependent point of view, right? Because let's say if somebody says to you and you get angry, that's fine. But then you always break down it to the 3 pieces. Because it's not that somebody put anger into your head, it's because somebody said something, you hear it and you interpret it. So there's 3 things happening, rather than saying that, oh, because of this that happened. And it gives you a lot of sense of being able to observe as well as patient. So last time we talked about these 6 among the 51. There we call the 6 root disturbing emotions. So these are the main doors or the domains where all the other afflicted emotions arises, multiplies. But then we also call it the 20 subsidiary disturbing emotions or something that are the almost like a product of whether one or several of combining all these 6 root disturbing emotions. What was the, let's see, what is the what they use. Okay, it says 20 subsidiary disturbing emotions. class we talked about the 6 root disturbing emotions. That's how it is translated. 6 root disturbing emotions and 20 subsidiary disturbing emotions. So yesterday I'm not sure if my translation were like, let's see. Okay, so we have ignorance, and we have attachment, we have anger. So there's three poisons. This is not big problem. Then we have arrogant, then we have doubt, and then we have this one. So they translate it to belief here, but usually we also call it view. So now among these 6, I think it is also nice to know that how that what is their functions, and how they obscures, how they mislead us. Says that the first one, ignorance means not knowing the law of actions and their effects, which means not believing in the law of karma. The 4 truths means 4 noble truths, and the virtues of the precious ones. So that means not understanding the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. So maybe not just understanding, but not being able to accept those realities. Okay, so what it does, it causes all affliction to occur, right? So you can say that this is actually like the seed of all the others. All the others are almost because of this, and then you multiply. So this ignorance causes all the other disturbing emotions to what do you call proliferate, developed.
Yeah.
And attachment, the second one, that's a long, but I think what it does is okay, it produces the pain of samsaric existence. So that's almost all of our samsaric sufferings are directly or indirectly comes from the ignorance, but it functions through the attachment, and then it becomes the secondary cause to our suffering. Not the it's more like direct cause, So for example, there's a butterfly, and first he thinks that this is something beautiful or I don't know, delicious. You know that sometimes butterflies, they go around, and finally they die. So this misunderstanding, not knowing this is harmful, and this is the ignorance. Still attaching it, you know, going around, round. This is attachment. So see, ignorance, attachment. And when you do that, what happens? You die. And similarly, when the fish, when he thinks that somebody is fishing, right? He doesn't know that. And when he sees this, what do you call? Worms.
On a hook.
Maybe the real worm, maybe the fake worm. Right? And he thinks it's a real worm. You know, that's ignorance, not knowing there's a hook inside. And then what happens? Out of ignorance, attachment starts. I want to get it. And when it goes there, suffering starts. And also I think the English word is quite nice. Even Tibetan word is not. It has that, but it's a little bit too abstract, I think, because in what happens, once you attach, you cannot move, right? You cannot be free. So you're stuck there. So it has that. Once you have attachment, means somehow you lose your freedom. You're stuck by the condition. Like we are stuck in our 5 aggregates, you know. So that's a problem. I have to cook, I have to clean. I'm stuck with this condition because it doesn't really matter I like or I don't like, I have to maintain this, right? Out of my choice. So all this hook that pulls you, you know, from the freedom. That is. It's sometimes I feel like this. If you look at our humans kind of evolved, yeah, we have been majorly suffered by these three poisons. When we were living in the caves, you know, like, I don't know what you call that, when people don't talk, they just live in a cave, and is there any...
Stone Age.
Huh? Stone Age, yeah.
Prehistory.
We are more suffering from the ignorance because we don't know how to build nice house, you know, we don't know how to hunt. So every day you're struggling for food and this. So ignorance, and it's lots of fear, or somebody will come and eat me. And after that, I think the anger started. So we have nations, we have countries, and I'm better than, I want to invade you, that and that, and whole World War II and 1 and 2 happen, you know. So we have this huge suffering of killing each other, like a massive organized killing. And these days, it's very hard to work with the people with ignorance because we have become quite smart. And also it doesn't really work to kill each other because life becomes very globalized, you know. So if someone everybody knows in few minutes, you know, worldwide, so you cannot really do that. So how you do that? Through attachment. This is still, you can, it's still working quite well. So I think the suffering also shift. The suffering of ignorance is more like a physical suffering in a way, comparatively speaking, right? And then suffering of anger becomes a little bit emotional, and then suffering of attachment is very much not a physical suffering, it's more mental suffering. Maybe that's why physically we are quite good, okay, yeah? But then there's more suffering. So our suffering is based on ignorance. Of course, all of them are there, but emphasize, I think. And the anger, it makes one not abide in peace and creates the basis for negative action. This is important, the not being able to abide in the peace. And because of that, the definition of patient in the Buddhist six paramita is not suppressing your emotions, but not disturbed by the conditions. Because like, let's say if somebody says something to me, I can be physically patient, I can be mentally patient. Right? So physically patient is okay, it's somewhere to start. It will definitely reduce the problem, but still not a real patient. So that means I'm still angry, but I don't want to show it outside, right? Because people will say this, or I don't know, maybe he's too strong, so anyway I cannot fight, or something like that. And normally, and there's this very natural patient, we have. So if you want to go against someone who's much, much stronger than you, you are automatically patient because you will not do anything. But it is very likely that you will lose your patience to someone who is equal, or you think that I can do something. And there's almost 90% chances that if someone is much, much weaker than you, and you will lose your patience very automatically, and you will never think about consequences. You will just do it because it doesn't matter anyway. So this patience also is a very tricky thing. Since anger, so for example, let's say if somebody who is much stronger than me did something to me, and physically I can be still I don't do anything, means I cannot do it, right? But mentally, if I'm not abiding on the peace, I'm still angry. I'm still losing my patience. So, but also the anger is very much a byproduct of attachment again, because anger is the defense for the attachment. So that's why if you want to be a less disturbed, less anger means less attachment. It also indirectly helps to have a less anger if you have less attachment, because there's less hope and fear, right? Because more attachment means the more hope and fear, means it will trigger your anger, means it will disturb you. So the arrogance. Okay, so it creates the basis for disrespecting others and for the occurrence of suffering. This arrogance. So arrogance functions as in the disrespecting. Again, this disrespecting is not just disrespecting, but it will follows with lots of other misbehaves. Putting someone, disregarding their emotions, disregarding their feelings, just out of disrespect. That means you are important, he or she is not. So I don't care. So losing your compassion, all this happens. So it's not just like disrespecting, stop there, no. And also I think many of our problems created from competitiveness. You know, I'm right, if something is different is wrong. So again, this is also a disrespecting someone else's opinion, knowledge, wisdom, belief, whatever, right? So this very strong biasness that we have, which triggers a lot of other our misbehaves and emotions, are also coming from this disrespecting, which is related to the arrogant. And I think biasness is one big problem. Individually, you know, like for example, somehow I know intellectually that it should not be like that, but when it comes to the action, we always become naturally biased, a little bit biased here and there. You know? And when it is not fulfilled, we get disappointed, we get anger. So the fifth tesum, doubt. So normally we call it the doubt means to be of two minds about the meaning of the Four Noble Truths. But it means that you have a dilemma minds, means you don't have one mind. You have like we call it the needle that has a two-headed needle. So you cannot sue because it will stuck there. So doubt is something like that, which kind of you want to go somewhere, but you are stuck because you have almost like a two direction, like you have a two driver or something like that. And one is saying maybe this way, and another saying maybe that way, and you discuss, talk, and you will never proceed. And this is important to do the contemplation, meditation. We might have some of them intellectual doubts, but we also have lots of emotional doubts. So that's why we heard about impermanent, but emotional will still believe that maybe half of them are impermanent, half of them are permanent. Still we are not very clear about that. Now the one important part is that it is said in the text that among the three wisdom that comes from study, wisdom that comes from contemplation, and wisdom that comes from meditation, the wisdom of study you can come in from the book, teaching, someone's instruction. But the wisdom, in order to develop and to cultivate this wisdom that comes from contemplation, is important to rely on is called the Menga Sambetesum Manajam, pit instructions. Because sometimes doubt cannot be solved just by calculating or measuring or going around and round. Because it's not about the effort. It's not about the just pushing it. It's about the certain kind of crucial points that needs to be undo. So this is also one reason why it is important to rely sometimes teachers' pit instructions. It might be just few lines, And also it's important when we study, but also go back to this meditational pit instruction texts and combine them, because sometimes we have a lot of, how to say it, yeah, because sometimes you might not find the exact information in the analyzing it, because it gives you just like, it's like this. If I want to learn how to ride a bike, right, I can buy a book, and book will definitely tell me, okay, you do this, you do that. But then actually when you do that, there's very small things that does not mention in the book, but which becomes a very critical point, right? For instance, probably book will never say that if you start falling to the right, push to the right, book will never say that. But that's how gravity works, right? When you ride a bike, let's say you're falling, what do you do? Do you go like this way? Yeah, no, because because you have to lean towards that, then it will, because this opposite reaction happens. But you will never see that in the book in saying if you're trying to lean on the right, go to the right, because it doesn't make sense logically, right? But this is the very important point when you ride the bike. It might not logically make much sense. You're falling onto the right and you lean right, okay? It doesn't make sense, right? So these kind of like pit instructions are important to the meditation. And sometimes it's a little bit, you have to be more, go beyond the logical mind, like they say. If I explain you like that, it's very illogical thing to say somebody like, I'm falling on the right and then lean towards right. That means he will fall more. But the opposite reaction, that's how it works. But I think doubt is important to start, as Buddha also said again and again, that you should investigate. Again, it could be misleading, because your doubt should not be intellectual entertainment. Yeah, it's very important at the very beginning. Why? It's not about doubt, it's about why I'm doubting. You have to have an already answer for that doubt, and then you look at, then it will come back, it will make sense. Because otherwise you can doubt anything, there's not limit. It's a limitless, and you will never solve any problem by doing, okay, so I finished. It's not like memorizing all the words in the dictionary and say, now I have finished my dictionary, I mastered the dictionary, now I'm clear. It will never be like that, because the one, you need 100 reasons to get one conviction. But there's thousands open choices to be doubt. You can always multiply it. For example, that's why Buddha said that, but Buddha also said that when the metaphysical questions are asked to Buddha, such as like when does universe come from, or this kind of questions. And he always said, these are a little bit unnecessary doubts. So, what is necessary doubts? What is unnecessary? Of course, for the sake of intellectual debate or entertainment, we can come up with very interesting question, interesting ideas, and discuss about that. But from the Dharma point of view, this is not our goal, because it has to do something with my suffering, my problem. It's not that you go and find out the final answer and you'll be liberated. It's not like that anyway, so what's the point of doing that? And this is also one difference between Western philosophers and Eastern, like maybe not Eastern or Buddha. And you can see almost similar contemporary ideas, but in the, I think, many of us thought that, okay, what is the reality? Maybe one day I will find the reality and everything will be solved, right? But unfortunately, I think that's how it doesn't work, especially like human life. So doubt is good, but useful doubt, doubt that is relevant. Sometimes even Buddha says that thinking about karma as like asking about if there's past life or future life is also an unnecessary doubt. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but and because of that, there's a one section in Sutra where very wise Hindu priests, scholars, scientists came to ask Buddha questions. Is there a God or not? Is there a beginning to the universe or not? And these kind of questions. It's like, I think 14 questions were raised. This is exactly the same questions they raised that in the modern scientific world, They like that. And Buddha didn't answer. And these are called like unanswered questions. So, of course, you can say because Buddha did not answer. But what we think is that it doesn't really matter, because Buddha always teach individually, right? So it doesn't really matter what I answer, because you already have a question. You already have a question answer in your mind. Those philosophers, ready-made answers. So they just came to, okay, if Buddha say yes, and I will say this will be the consequence. If Buddha say not, and this will be the consequence. So anyway, whichever he said. And one interesting thing, it's a very good, I think, metaphor. We might have this also kind of feeling. One person came and he said, I heard that you're omniscient Buddha. Because Buddha is known as called Sarvajñana, omniscient. But I'm not sure, if you're not or not. But it's very easy to check. I will prove you are not. Okay, so he came and he just stopped to the near the doorstep. He said he took out his one foot and put it in the middle of the line. And he asked Buddha, okay, say if you are omniscient, now tell me, am I going to put this inside or outside of the door? So his idea was that if Buddha say you will go the inside, I will put outside and prove he's wrong. If Buddha say, oh, you will gonna put that foot in the outside of line, I will put it inside and I will prove him wrong. So I think these are stories, but it is representative of our doubts. We still have that again and again. Maybe it comes in a little bit different angles, different form, but we still do have that. And I think we also have this, and we think like, okay, if Buddha you exist, you just show me a small part of you, then I will really have a faith. I will really have a faith. But since you didn't show me anything, I cannot have faith in you. I still have a doubt whether you exist or not. But Buddha saying is that, you have a faith, eventually you will see me. Now it is like business, So someone is saying that, okay, you invest 1,000 and maybe after 6 months I will give you a 2,000 profit. But the other person is saying that, okay, you give me the profit and I will invest. I don't trust you. So that's negotiating is not happening because of lack of trust each other. One is saying that you just invest. There's no need to, you will definitely get it 100% guarantee. But still the other person is not sure, because how do you know, right? Will you just take all my money and nothing happens? So we have this fear of, I think many people who practice Dharma, we have fear of, if I use this time, energy to Dharma, I might miss very important part in my mundane life. I don't want to miss that. Sense of missing,
Loss.
Because our consuming is our kind of nature. So I have a dilemma, but it's a kind of like a gamble, But this one short, quite vivid. This one quite long, and it's abstract. But somehow this seems more deep, this seems more shallow. But this seems much easier, obvious, this seems more dead. Am I missing something, or am I getting something more? This is always a question we ask ourselves from the doubt. But if we do the necessary doubts, I think these are not that abstract. For example, like you say, he talks about Four Noble Truths, doubt about Four Noble Truths, faith about Four Noble Truths. These are not something you have to think too much, actually. It's quite something's happening in our daily life. We just don't realize it. That's the only problem, So we have this arrogance, doubts, and the last 6 one, belief or the view.
Yeah.
So it says, belief is the view of all kinds of disturbed discriminations. So that means that actually any kind of our disturbing emotion has a foundation of belief, right? Without a belief, why we get angry? Because of belief. Why we get attachment? Belief. So this belief is very like subtle part of almost in every part. So what does belief does? It forms the support for all unwholesome beliefs. Means mostly wrong beliefs. We're not talking about the right belief, but wrong view, wrong belief. Now, this is also important. So among the belief, the 51, we subcategorize 5. When belief is subdivided, there are 5 types. So we are talking about this, not a positive belief, yeah, not a faith one. This disturbing emotion beliefs, wrong way beliefs. The belief in the transitory collection is the belief in I and my within the 5 perpetuating aggregates. So this is one belief, okay? I just look at my aggregates and say, oh, this is me, this is I. So this sense of meanness is a one kind of belief. It's called quite interesting, transitory collection belief. So this is very Abhidharma's terminology to use this meanness, because where it went wrong too. It is a collective, but we see it as a singular. It is a transitory, but we see it as a permanent. So when you mistaken these two, collectiveness and the transitory, and it becomes, oh, I, this very individual, independent, intensitary, uncollective me, which is completely false identity. What it does, it forms the basis for the other wholesome beliefs, right? It means because of this transitory collective beliefs, then I need house, I need good things, I am this, I am that, all the other story starts from there. I am monk, I am teacher, I am student. And the second one is, so we have 5, right? So this is 1. The second one is called the belief of holding extremes. Means regarding the self or the 5 arrogance to be permanent or discontinuous, right? So this is a little bit based on that. You have a little bit again, this is more, we are talking about the emotional belief, right? So intellectually, if I ask you, are you permanent or impermanent, you will say, no, I am impermanent, right? You will easily say that. So it's not an intellectual question. Intellectual belief is more emotional belief, in the sense that, oh, he hurt me last time, he's still hurting you, he will hurt me, and then you get this very strong reaction based on he did to me this past time, future, now. So when we say this, it is also a little bit related to this idea of soul. Let's say if you're eternalist, there's the idea of the original soul, permanent. But then let's see if you are nihilist, idea of that, okay, when I die, everything ceases. There's no idea of belief of continuity. So this is also what it means. Discontinuous or permanent. So what Buddhist says, it is not permanent because it changes, it transfers, but it is not discontinuous because continuity is still there. Maybe not the form, but all the other consciousness continues. So this is how you solve both problem of eternalist and nihilist. So you're not permanent, but you changes. Does it mean that you discontinuous? No. Continuity is still there. So are you same? No, because you're continuous. Are you different? No, because the continuity is same. And that's the how whole logic of karma is explained through that. Not permanent, but at the same time not discontinuous. I think it's like putting money in the bank, right? When you put money when you're around 10 years, let's say 15 years old, and then you get that money into you when you're 40 years old. Are you the same person? No. But it's still on, you have the right to get money. Why? Because we are same continuity of your 5 arrogance, even though logically, scientifically it's not, but let's assume it is you. Maybe you have changed 2-3 times all your body, but still your fingerprint will show, it is you. So let's assume it is you, and it works that way. But if fingerprint starts denying you, then there will be a problem. Saying that it's not you. So again, even in the mundane world, this sense of identity works in the continuity, but not randomly. Yeah, so it has to have some rules, but it doesn't have to be there exactly, because otherwise it's impossible to have an identity. Because everybody changes by minute. It's not it's scientifically, you're changing. So transcendental collection, the extremes, perverted belief is one that is easy, because it's just regarding an existing fact as being non-existent. For instance, to disregard the cause and effect of action. Yeah, so this is like we call wrong view. Its function is to cut the virtue's root, right? So if you don't believe in the cause and effect law, then there's no reason to follow the ethics, do anything, right? But I think it's impossible to disregard the cause and effect once you're born in this samsara. You can disregard, let's say, I don't believe in the past life, future life, that's fine, but you will still get hungry, and you will eat the food. Why are you doing that, Because you know that there's a cause and there's an effect, and if you eat, it will satisfy your hunger. That's why you eat. If you are completely nihilist, you don't even wake up from the bed and do nothing, because it doesn't make any sense, So actually, once you're born, you don't have a choice to be a complete nihilist. You only have a choice to be a radical nihilist and maybe softer nihilist. You cannot be completely nihilist. It's impossible. Even the animals, they are not nihilist. Why they walk, why they fly, why they, because they know there's something, you do something, something happens. So there's a law of cause and effect. Then we have holding a belief to be paramount. This is again that I was talking yesterday, that my way, right way. I believe this, that's why. This is the supreme, this is the best, only this way. So all this comes up. And it's impossible to talk with other people. There's no communication space, only this way. basis for these beliefs, it causes complete clinging to an unwholesome belief. So there is a one kind of arrogant that is almost like arrogant, but bit like positive arrogant, such as differentiating between, let's say, discipline and undisciplined, and thinking being disciplined is a positive. It's still a duality, but it's a good way to study. So it might sound a little bit like but it is like that. We also have this like spiritual arrogance. Right? Like for example, let's say sometimes you practice very well, very disciplined, and somehow this idea, I am the purest practitioner, becomes your problem. You're thinking that, I'm practicing very rigorously. It is good, of course it's good, but then the problem is that the duality between you and who don't practice becomes so strong that every time what you do, criticize them. You talked about how unpure are they. This is all comes in your mind because the reverse of that. And this almost being pure becomes your problem unknowingly. This is also this perverted belief regarding in something that you have is the most the purest. So having a confidence is fine, but this confidence should not become a reason to get angry to someone who is not on that board. So I think, this comes in the second one. Holding a discipline or ritual to be paramount, right, is to believe that a non-purifying or non-liberating discipline or ritual as well as its basis. So this is a little bit philosophical explanation of such as this is talking about what kind of ritual is the pure ritual that leads to the liberation. So of course everybody believes our ritual is the right way. Let's say between eternalist and nihilist, eternalist thinks this is the right way, nihilist thinks that. But it depends on it should not be influenced by ignorance or arrogance or some other reasons. For example, let's say Buddhist is pure because my father was Buddhist, or my uncle used to practice this. We can have that. And that is, so it should be based on the wisdom, right? Whether it is right or wrong, whether it is according to the reality or not.